Hey everybody, welcome back. I am sorry it's been several days since I did a video. I've had my parents here for almost a week. They came down for my niece's wedding and their house was packed, so they stayed with us for almost a week. It was amazing. I love my parents. They're 83 and 84 years old. They drove 15 hours from Canada. I had a total brain fart though. I was gonna interview my dad. He was born into Nazi occupied Norway in 1942. And I was gonna talk to him about growing up in the 40s and 50s, and I completely spaced it. So I apologize next time. But what I wanted to talk about, by the way, välkommen tillbaka, tack för sist. Him and we get into a lot of deep discussions. And let me preface this by saying, I respect the hell out of my dad. I love my dad. He's an amazing dude. We golfed 4 times, twice with one of my sons. It was just a great time. And I have nothing but respect for him. We don't agree religiously. He would tell you, in fact, I thought about interviewing him about his conversion story into the Mormon church. I've talked about how people that convert to a religion are usually stronger in that faith than the people that are born into it. It's a completely different thing, in my opinion. I was not born into it, but essentially, I was a little over a year old when they joined the Mormon church. He's one of the few people I can sit and talk politics and religion with, even though we don't necessarily agree on everything. We're aligned on a lot of things, don't get me wrong. But we sit and have deep discussions. We took a couple hot tubs and just sat and talked. The one night, my youngest son, who's 25, he lives down in Vegas, he sat in there with us and we had pretty deep discussions. Last night, it was just my dad and my mom and my wife and my daughter were all sitting over on the patio with the fire going. And they threw their 2 cents in here and there because we do not get mad at each other, but sometimes it gets a little heated. And it's because we're both very passionate. So he is extremely devoted to his religion, the Mormon church, the LDS faith. He doesn't doubt it for a second. Part of me envies that. Part of me is jealous of that. I think it'd be cool to believe that strongly. Listen, I have faith. I believe in God. I believe there's something after this life. I just don't know exactly what. I think if you live a good life, that there's something good waiting for us after this life. But, you know, every person has the right to believe and think the way they want to think. And one of the discussions I have with my dad is quite often is, listen, Dad, you chose this church. You were, whatever, 22, 23 years old, married with a little kid. And, you know, he would tell you that he prayed about it and the Mormon missionary showed up, and not belittling that at all. That's his experience. I served a Mormon mission in 1983 and 84 in Norway. I prayed a lot. I studied a lot of scriptures. In the end, I decided that religion wasn't for me. One of the discussions we get in quite often, because he will say, I know 100% this is what's happening, this is where we're going, this is where we came from, this is why we're here. And I'll say something to the effect of, yes, but there are millions and millions of people in this world that believe everybody as strongly as you do in your religion, in their religion. I say it all the time. Believe whatever you want, worship whatever God you want, as long as you're not hurting people. Now, there are religions in this world, there are people in this world that will hurt people based on their religion. I find no way to justify that, none. Through human history, it's happened. There's always been people being murdered in the name of God. I find that offensive. I find it antithetical to believing in God. So I'll state my premise again, that I think you should get to believe what you want, worship who you want, as long as you don't hurt anybody. If you hurt anybody, especially physically, murder people, kill people, abuse people, I don't have any respect for you. I just don't. And that doesn't mean you don't get to believe what you want to believe. But my point to my dad is there are people, I could name all kinds of people. Jim Jones in the 70s, the Branch Davidians. The list goes on where people, Heaven's Gate, they were convinced they are going to heaven. In the case of Jonestown with Jim Jones, they all committed suicide, mass suicide, because they were going to heaven. And so I don't have a problem with anybody believing or anybody saying, I know 100% this is right for them. But I don't think anybody has the right to say that for somebody else. And one of the things that used to offend me a lot, and it's become less, I've noticed, and it's not just the LDS Church that does it, but they would say, we are the only true church on the planet with all the truth. I've studied a lot about the LDS religion. And granted, I haven't done much of it in the last couple of decades. So my knowledge is a little older, but there's a lot of things I uncovered that just weren't cool. And it's not just them, it's every religion on the planet has skeletons in their closet. They just do. But, we started getting on the kind of discussions that, if you think about it long enough, they blow your mind. You can't comprehend it. So, he believes that we are created by a God, which I do too. That doesn't mean he couldn't have used evolution in his process. That doesn't mean that biological things couldn't happen. Let me state first what I believe when I say I believe God. I believe we are placed on this earth, all people, and then we are free to choose what we want to do. Now, I know there are lots of countries where you have no choice what you can do ever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, people like Hitler and Stalin and Mao that killed millions and millions and millions of people. Why would God allow that to happen? The Holocaust, Stalin under communism killed millions. Mao in China under communism killed probably more people than anybody on the planet ever. You can argue that with me if you want, but it's just a fact. That is the truth. The Cultural Revolution in China there were people who would turn against their parents. Anyway, back to my point, I believe we're put here, and then whatever happens, happens. I don't believe in a God, and does it mean I'm right? No. I don't believe in a God that manipulates and gets involved in every little detail of every human's life. That doesn't make sense to me. And that doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean you're right if you believe something different. I say it all the time. If you want to leave me comments disagreeing with me, I got no problem with that. I will read them, and if they're respectful, I will try to respond to them. But we started talking about, okay, just for instance, the Milky Way galaxy has about 200 billion stars. We have about 2 trillion planets just in the Milky Way. That's incomprehensible. A billion is 1,000 million. A trillion is 1,000 billion. It becomes mind-boggling. Then you start thinking about, they estimate there are somewhere around 2 trillion galaxies in the known universe, which the universe is constantly expanding. So we're looking back. When we see stars, when we see planets, not planets, planets we're looking back a few minutes, maybe a few hours, but stars, sometimes we're looking back millions of years in the past. That light that's coming from a star that's 800 light years away, that's the light that emitted from that star 800 years ago. You start thinking about, and all the stars we see are in a little corner of our galaxy. And then you multiply that by trillions. It's that somebody, one being created all that, I can't comprehend that. I can't come to grips with that. I can't wrap my brain around that. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around just the universe. Actually, I can't. I mean, you know, the Big Bang Theory, if you believe in that, that everything started from a pinprick or basically nothing and exploded into the known universe. And it's still expanding. Way faster than ever we can ever look back into space. So we can never see the edge of the universe because it's expanding faster than we can see it. We talked about that quite a bit, about, I think, and I don't want to put words in my dad's mouth, but I think he believes that there are probably gods for different galaxies, different universes, if you believe in the multiverse. It's the kind of thing that just, I like thinking about. I enjoy the discussion. Like, we had a pretty deep discussion in the hot tub last night. We got into some pretty deep philosophical stuff. We got into the two-prayer dilemma, which I did a video on a couple months ago. And just a brief synopsis of that was two families, two religious families that believe in God and live great lives, righteous lives. Two little kids, they both get kidnapped, they both pray to God. One child comes back unharmed, the other doesn't. Okay, the one family will say, God answered my prayer. What does the other family say? God ignored me? God chose that one over the other one? I'm not smart enough to know that. And I've never come across a single person that is. You know, when I did that video a couple months ago, there were people that, like, I had one say, well, my priest says that's not for us to know. Okay, well, that's a real simple answer when you don't know the answer. Just say you don't know. So that's why I believe the way I believe in the God I believe in. And I pray most nights. I try to live a righteous life. I try to treat people right. I try to be kind and respectful to people. I'm not perfect. I fail all the time. But I think, you know, if you believe in a life after this, you have to believe in something, that what we do on this planet makes a difference. Now, I know there are religions that are like, you can't be saved by your works. It's only by the grace of God and Jesus. I get that too, but I don't. That's a subject for another time, because I could go way deep into that. That's a very deep discussion. What it boils down to is your faith is such a personal thing to everybody. You know, when I was in the Mormon church, I talked to a lot of people about this stuff too. And even within the church, there are so many different opinions on where we came from, what we're doing here, where we're going after this life. That for me, it's just impossible to nail down. And I have decided, I told my dad this last night, that I have decided to try to live the best life I can, to try to treat people right, to be a good dad, to be a good husband, to be a good son, brother, friend. And for me, I think that's enough. You know, so many religions require things of you. Like, you know, in the Mormon church, you get baptized. You go to the temple, you get your endowments, you join in eternal marriage. Now, I had somebody say to me a few weeks ago, you're wrong, single people can go to the celestial kingdom. They're right and wrong. To be exalted to the highest level of the celestial kingdom, if you believe in the Mormon church, you have to enter into eternal marriage. Now, according to them, you could do that after this life too. There's also the millennium that will come up after the resurrection. That's 1,000 years. And, you know, so there's all kinds of little caveats there. And it's the same for every religion. Every religion has conundrums where if you sit and you really try to nail somebody down on something, which isn't what I was trying to do with my dad at all. I was just trying to state my point of view, my case for my belief. You know, you chose, you know, he said something to the effect of, so you think I'm lying when I tell you what happened to me when I prayed to God and joined the church? I said, of course I don't think you're lying. I think you believe that. And odds are it happened exactly like you said. But, you know, we all have experiences. I've had experiences in my life where a few days later, I'd think, or a few years later, did that happen? Did that really happen? You know, when we remember something, we are remembering the memory of the memory. So when you remember, you know, that time I went fishing with my buddy when I was 13 and I caught the huge northern pike, I'm remembering the last time I remembered it. And so it's kind of like the circle game, you know, where you tell a story. You don't know, memories are a fickle thing. My dad is probably the most honest person I know. So no, I don't think he's lying. No, I think he's telling, or yes, I think he's telling the truth. This is the kind of thing I love reading comments because it's such a personal, independent thing, and we all have such different ways of looking at this. You know, I've gotten many comments from people that are in the LDS church now that have been very kind and respectful to me. I try really hard to be kind and respectful to the LDS church. There are things I have a problem with. It's part of the reason I left. That doesn't mean that we can't respect each other. And, you know, every once in a while I get some crazy comment, in my opinion, a crazy comment. And I usually just won't respond to them because I don't know how to respond to something that I find crazy. Maybe in that person's mind that's leaving that comment, it's not crazy. It probably isn't. But for me, it doesn't make any sense. So I just got to move on, go to the next thing. But yeah, it's something I look forward to reading your comments on this video. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate those of you that subscribe and click the like button, the thumbs up, and leave comments and share it. And it means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry I haven't been on in quite a few days. I'm going to try and get back into the groove again. It's just been a crazy week, not trying to keep my parents entertained. We were enjoying ourselves too, but we were just doing something all the time. Even if we weren't out and about, we were sitting around talking in the yard and having a barbecue. We had the whole family over here on Sunday, some of the extended family. And it was awesome. My niece's wedding on Saturday was incredible. She just put on if she's watching this, your wedding was beautiful. And I was happy to be a part of it and be able to help a little bit. So yeah, let me know what you think. I may even try to do 2 videos today to try to catch up a little bit, but we'll start with this one. We'll see where it goes. I could go on for hours about this subject. I won't. I don't want to drone. So let me know what you think. Tack för denna gång. Men snackas igen snart. Thank you for this time. We'll talk again soon. And I really do hope y'all have a beautiful day. Peace. Love.